Ready, Britain, here we go. Forget Ukraine. Starmer can't even defend our own borders. Next.
Very good evening to you from the newsroom. Straight back to Patrick in just a few moments. First, though, a look at the news tonight. Sir Keir Starmer says Russian President Vladimir Putin feasts on division and that Ukraine's future is vital to UK national security. He told MPs earlier that Russia is a menace in British waters and skies, has carried out cyber attacks on the National Health Service and even conducted assassination attacks in our streets. The Prime Minister insists Britain will now lead from the front in securing peace for Ukraine after a week of talks with Volodymyr Zelensky, European leaders and the US President Donald Trump. Well, speaking to us earlier, Dame Priti Patel told us that it's vital Britain now plays a leading role in achieving that peace.
This matters to us as a country. It matters to our own security here domestically. I can't emphasise that enough. Look at who the aggressor is in this conflict. It's Russia. It's the same Russia that committed poisonings in our own country not that long ago. You remember Salisbury? We had politicians in that very chamber that I've sat in this afternoon who would not even acknowledge Russian influence.
Well, tensions between Donald Trump and President Zelensky are still escalating, with the current US president, accusing the Ukrainian leader of not being appreciative of American support. It comes after a heated exchange between the two at the Oval Office, but tonight Trump said he is not considering suspending military aid for now. Zelensky insists Ukraine is counting on the US, describing peace as the country's highest priority. And it comes as talks with international partners are ongoing, with more steps expected soon. At least 2 people are dead and several others seriously injured after a car drove into crowds in the German city of Mannheim. Police say the suspect, a 40-year-old German man, deliberately rammed pedestrians in a busy square before shooting himself. He survived and is now in hospital, with prosecutors saying he's showing signs of mental illness. Investigators have, though, ruled out an extremist motive, but Germany's Interior Minister says it is the latest in a series of crimes where vehicles have been used as weapons. Mannheim's hospital remains on high alert, with 8 trauma teams treating the injured. An inquiry into the deadliest channel crossing in UK history has heard that despite multiple distress calls, no rescue came for those on board. At least 27 died when the inflatable boat capsized in November 2021, including women and children. The first distress call was made by a 16-year-old boy who was told help was on the way, but search crews mistakenly recorded another boat as the vessel in trouble. A cold water expert says most victims likely died over a long period from hypothermia. The Pope has suffered 2 episodes of acute respiratory failure as the Vatican warns he's not out of danger. The 88-year-old's health took a turn for the worse this afternoon after being in hospital for around 2 weeks with a lung infection. Doctors carried out 2 procedures to check his airways while he's now back on a ventilator. The Vatican says Pope Francis remains alert and cooperative, but his prognosis is still uncertain. And the ceasefire in Gaza is on the brink of collapse, with Israel halting humanitarian aid until Hamas accepts a new deal. The proposal, backed by the US, would extend the truce by 50 days during Ramadan and Passover in exchange for half the remaining hostages. Hamas says Israel is trying to avoid talks as pressure grows from the UN to resume aid. For those hostages still held in Gaza, reports describe severe hunger, some surviving on just a small bowl of rice a day, while protests in Israel intensify to bring them home. Both sides say they're preparing to resume fighting while weighing their options for peace. That's the news on GB News. I'll be back with a full roundup of all the top stories at 10 o'clock. Now, though, it's back to Patrick.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening, everybody. If only we put as much effort into defending our own borders as we are when it comes to protecting Ukraine's. Nearly 600 illegal migrants crossed the Channel yesterday, the highest number for a single day this year. 2,716 of them have arrived so far this year. That's 20% more than at the same point last year. What's Home Secretary Yvette Cooper done? Well, agreed to send even more money to the French. In fact, she's extended that deal until 2027. Oh, but it's on one condition, OK? That they build a £12.5 million migrant detention centre in Dunkirk. Yeah, all right then, they were supposed to do that years ago. It's been held up due to planning rows. I mean, this mythical migrant detention centre was part of the 480 million quid Britain agreed to pay for additional border patrols and surveillance equipment, such as drones and night vision binoculars. Why are we even paying for that? Can't the French afford night vision binoculars? You are paying for 730 of the 1,200 French police officers dedicated to patrolling France's northern border. The French, after all these years, have literally only just passed a law to allow police officers to intercept migrant boats in shallow water. So this whole time, they were operating under a law that prevented them from stopping migrant boats in the water, which is why people smugglers have been putting people in boats in rivers that lead into the channel, because once they get in those boats, in those rivers, they could not be stopped by French authorities. Does that really sound like the French want to do anything about the problem to you? A convenient law that prevented them from stopping any migrants in the water. Their new detention centre, which Brits have already paid for, can't be built because of planning rows. We even paid for night vision cameras on the beaches that the French installed, didn't turn on, and then when they did, only a few of them worked. Under Labour, the number of migrant hotels has risen by at least 7. I just find it a little bit rich that we see scenes like this. You know, a load of European leaders there talking about our values, protecting Europe from invasion, all of this stuff. And literally, whilst that's happening, boatloads of mostly men from the Middle East and Africa are breaking into Britain. Starmer has formed a coalition of the willing to help Ukraine. All right, OK. Well, maybe we actually need a coalition of the willing to prevent Britain from being invaded as well. Let's get the thoughts of my panel this evening. We, of course, do have Carol Malone there, Daily Express columnist, Susie Stride, Labour Party activist, political commentator, ex-Tory Party chairman, Sir Jake Berry. Carol, I'll start with you. Look, you know, you see some of those stats there. Worst weekend so far this year, 20% up on illegal arrivals, more migrant hotels, etc. Are we being invaded here, do you think?
Yeah, I think we are. You know, the numbers have gone up. As I say, you just quoted the thing there, 20,000 this year under Starmer. It's, you know, it is astonishing, this deal we have with the French. You just mentioned it there. They don't want to stop people coming here. The more they get rid of, the actual better. And I just find it astonishing that we're paying them this amount of money to do nothing. The thing about the stopping in the water now, they can actually stop them when they're in the water. They could stop them on the beaches in France. We've seen the coppers standing, having a fag on the beach, having a chat, while migrants are loading themselves into the boats on the beach. They just need a little bit of a knife to actually puncture the boat. Then the boat can't go anywhere. But there is no will to do that. And I just think, you know, this government talks and talks and talks about stopping the boats. They try to defend their immigration policy, which I've yet to know what it is today, by saying that the Border Security Command is now working. They only appointed the guy 2 weeks ago and he lives in Finland. So I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work. He says he's going to work from here, but that's how seriously they're taking it.
Yeah, Susie, how do you think the British public should react to this? OK, so more money to the French to do what with? I mean, another way of looking at those 600 people who came across the Channel on Sunday would be to visualise that in terms of hotels. That is probably at least another 2 migrant hotels that have just come across the Channel that we're not really going to do anything about. Do you think this is good enough from Labour so far?
Look, I think, I always say this, it's very, very important that this issue is taken incredibly seriously. The fact is, you know, this is a top issue for people in this country. This is a key issue. It is a key issue in the election. You know, people need to humble themselves and get on and do the job. You know, must be taken seriously. I think it is, when you see stuff like this, it is infuriating. We've paid them to build a detention centre. They haven't done it. I look at that and I'm frustrated.
Now we go, right, well, the condition of this next round of money is that you build that detention centre. What makes makes us think they're going to do it this time?
We paid for it twice over.
We've paid for it twice.
And look, you know, I'm sure Yvette Cooper is equally infuriated by this. However, I think it's also important to see that in the last, whatever it is, eight months, look, the issue we're in, the situation we're in, it'd be absolutely appalling to blame it all on Labour. Immigration went up, treble under the Tories.
Absolutely.
And that's very important to look at, you know.
Go on, yeah.
So the first thing is, I mean, I thought Keir Starmer had a plan. That's what he told the country. He had a plan to smash the gangs. In fact, the number of people coming over in boats has increased since he abolished all the deterrents like the Rwanda plan and saying to me, I mean, just labelling illegal migration as irregular migration, which seems to be one of the only things the Labour Party's actually done, doesn't make the problem go away. If they have a plan, it's time that they had a bit of humility and said that that plan is failing. I'm not saying the Conservatives got it all right, but actually when we had all of these deterrents in place, it started to come down. It is now going up. It is going in the wrong direction. And you say, Susie, Yvette Cooper will be really cross that the French haven't built this centre. Well, guess what? I'm cross too.
Yeah,
but I'm not the one handing over another £12 billion of taxpayers'
No, I
cash
think it's important
for them not to do the job.
I think it's also important to point out that deportations have increased under us. Deportations have increased under Labour.
Let us look at those 19,000 deportations. 12,000 left of their own accord. Some of the rest were paid, and there is no fact check anywhere that can tell us that those people were asylum seekers. So I really want to know...
Apparently 3% of them came across in a small boat. Apparently 3%.
But even so, that 19,000 is a farcical figure.
It's a low-hanging fruit.
But you know...
But we've done a better job than the Tories. Flipping heck, it trebled under them.
No, you haven't, actually, because you haven't...
Well, if you've done such a good job, why is the number of illegal migrants in the hotels gone up by 8,000 since you won the general election? That's not what I call doing a good job.
I don't think you can turn round 14 years, of mess from this lot in 8 months. You just can't.
So bad,
you know, you just
why
can't.
are you making it worse?
I don't think we are making it worse. I don't think we are making it worse.
Stop blaming the Tories for everything. They said...
No, it's context.
They said they had a plan to sort this out. They haven't. Currently, we have 38,000 people in migrant hotels, and they're going to keep on coming. And why wouldn't they? Because there was absolutely no deterrent. You know, they talk about Rwanda being an unworkable plan. It would have been a deterrent had it been allowed to get in. And deterrent should mean in this country...
I mean, I agree.
Can I just finish the point? And what the Tories did put in place was a plan that people who came here illegally would not be allowed to stay. And now they can stay under Labour. So Labour have removed all deterrents.
It's a lot of money, again, to be spent not in Britain, or for people, ultimately, who come to Britain illegally
and are
not
French
British.
for failing. You are rewarding the French for failing. Here's £12 million. You've completely failed. You know, here's some more money to fail again.
It just seems, I mean, there's a lot of people in this country who could really do with that money.
No, look, ultimately, you know, we need to get these numbers down. I don't think it's a great thing that we're handing money here, handing money there, but we're having to do unpopular things to get those numbers down. We've also made deals, haven't we? We've also made deals. We've also made deals with home countries to make sure that, A, they're taking people back, but also that they're doing things to keep people in their countries. That's number one. Number two, we're doing things to crack down on illegal workers, which is a key thing, which is attracting people to come here. So those delivery drivers, when you've got illegal people working here illegally, that is not acceptable, and you need to crack down on that. And so these are key things that we are doing. But I'm sorry, but I will not take lectures from the Tories when the immigration figures trebled under them. Can't have quick fixes.
You had a plan. There is clearly no plan at all.
There is a plan. You can't do it straight away. You can't have quick fixes.
There are other countries that are putting measures in place to deter immigrants. France is one of them. It's actually cut a lot of the benefits down for people coming into the country, which is why they're scuttling over here, because the benefits here are amazing. Fancy coming to a...
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against us being tougher.
Let me finish.
France.
So fancy coming to a country where you get to stay in a 4-star hotel that most Brits can't stay in. You get free healthcare, dental care.
Let's let Jake in here now.
Well, look, I think the thing is, Labour say they have a plan. It clearly isn't working. There is going to be a point in time when the Labour Party puts its hands up and accepts, look, actually, it was a bad idea to get rid of the disincentives we had to come to this country. It may be politically convenient at the moment to say that's not what you do, but actually, when you've got a plan, it's completely failing. Numbers are going up, number of people in hotels is going up, the number of people crossing is going up, the number of people applying for asylum is going up.
I mean, and I just want to say, sorry, Patrick, all of this happened, and I know we keep saying we can't talk about the Tories, but I'm sorry, sorry, but I've got a Conservative MP lecturing me,
Susie.
and the numbers went up under them. They didn't go down under them. We've been in for 8 months. And listen, I agree that we need to get the numbers down. You know, I mean, we're not going to win the next general election if we don't get the numbers down. But ultimately, this is we've got to take this seriously. But you cannot.
The Tories had measures in place that were deterrents, and the minute Labour got into power,
they clearly didn't work.
They didn't get work because you're
they were there for 14 years. Trebled. Immigration trebled under them. No, because it is important to see that the immigration trebled under them.
What I don't understand is why, OK, the previous government, but why this government now doesn't shut down Deliveroo, Uber Eats and Just Eat. Yeah. Shut them down, OK? If any other business in the country was found in one specific survey to be employing 40% of their workforce who they were stopped in the street and were questioned illegally, that business would be shut down. Why is it OK? I'd had a Deliveroo or an Uber Eats, on Sunday, OK? Fatima was supposed to turn up. It was a bloke. Yeah. It was obviously not Fatima, OK? And that happens pretty much... I could order one now and someone else turns up. Why haven't we shut them down? Isn't that a statement of intent from the government? Why aren't we going around to every single car wash in the country with an immigration enforcement van and watching them scatter and then say, right, OK, maybe they're here illegally? There is a lot of low-hanging fruit we could be going for. The Tories could have done it. Labour aren't doing it either, are they?
Well, I think, as I say, again, I mean, look, it may well be that we're not moving quick enough. I mean, look, ultimately, I'm not in government myself. I'm getting all these lectures from everyone. Yeah, no, do you know what I mean?
But I think... That. You know, the Tories could have done that before. Everyone could see that Deliveroo and all of these places, people... We're not doing it. That is an easy one. And once you see some big companies get hammered, other people are going to be like, oh, flipping out. All right, OK.
We'll just find them.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe, and that could well be a really good idea that they do bring in fines for that, but they are trying to make it tougher so that attraction isn't there.
Making it tougher?
Well, one of the things that they're going to do is also make sure. Yeah, well, the thing is because these things take time, don't they? You can't have quick fixes, you know.
Why didn't they leave the thing in place where it said anyone who comes here illegally can't stay? Why didn't they leave that in place?
I thought Keir Starmer had a plan. He had a plan. He was going to smash the GAMs. They had all sorts out. It's a fully costed plan.
Going on.
Well, you guys also had a plan, but immigration went up under you.
Hotel stays up. Number of illegal crossings up.
I mean, the thing is look, your guys' record is appalling on this.
We're going to have to knock it on the head there. But I'm really excited for the chat that we're next going to have at 10 p.m. Actually, seriously, because there's a lot of stuff going on about Ukraine at the minute, rightly so. All right, but hang on, is this just a very convenient distraction in some senses for Keir Starmer to take people's eyes off the things that we've just been talking about? We'll have a look at that. But anyway, it's the final week to see how you could win one of two amazing prize bundles in our latest giveaway. Each one has a brand new iPhone 16, 500 quid in shopping vouchers, a whopping 10 grand in tax-free cash. I'm just gutted I'm not allowed to enter it. Hurry up, because lines close on Friday.
It's the final week to see how you could be one of two big winners in our latest giveaway, as we have two prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on the 7th of March. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
OK, welcome back. Coming up, King Charles welcomed Zelensky with open arms yesterday. But just 2 days after the Ukrainian president's almighty dust-up with President Trump in the White House, the king is walking a diplomatic tightrope. Is he in danger of becoming a bit too political? But first, a whole generation of British boys are in crisis, according to a shocking new report. They're lagging behind in education, they're paid less than young women, they're more likely to be banged up in jail, they're more likely to commit suicide as well, actually. Has gender equality left boys at the back of the queue? That's next.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Aaron, this is a mad idea.
The future is bold. The future is hard, and it requires mad ideas. And we're proud to be bold and thought-provoking.
How are you going to make money out of this?
Well, the Olympics make $4.5 billion in revenue per Olympic cycle, and they're a wildly profitable organization that has never been challenged. So we're very proud to take them on and create something better and more efficient. It's not well known, but 44% of Olympians admit to using banned performance-enhancing substances, according to research funded by the International Olympic Committee and published in a top-tier scientific journal. It's absolutely rife. So 44% of elite athletes admit to using banned substances, only 1% get caught.
Would this not encourage the production of harder drugs, though? You know, steroids that go that bit further?
Absolutely, right? And the goal is to create an environment where research and development are openly celebrated rather than being done in secret. When things are done in the open, we can study those compounds, and the drugs that allow athletes to run faster and jump higher are the same drugs that will allow all of us to be younger and faster and stronger for longer.
If, as you say, 44% of Olympians are actually using this stuff anyway, secretly behind the scenes in a sort of hidden and unregulated way, would it actually look that much different to you or I sitting in the stand watching people run 100 metres? Would they actually do it much faster?
Yeah, because you could have athletes who are in their 30s, maybe even in their 40s, breaking world records. And we're already seeing that with our athletes that we have in training. It's absolutely exceptional. If almost half of Olympians are already using banned substances, they're doing so in secret. They're not using the best available compounds. They're not doing it under clinical supervision. They're doing it to beat the drug testing, not to optimize their results.
The People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome along. So, coming up, is King Charles in danger of becoming too politicised? But first, has gender equality left British boys at the back of the queue? It's time now for the head-to-head. So young boys are in crisis and being left by the wayside in the push for gender equality. That's the conclusion of a study by the Centre for Social Justice. The report paints a grim picture for an entire generation of boys falling behind at every stage in Britain, from early education to the workforce. So across every subject at GCSE level, boys' results are half a grade lower than girls on average, and boys are twice as likely to be excluded from school than girls. And the problem only gets worse when boys leave school and enter the workforce. So the so-called gender pay gap has actually gone in reverse, apparently, with young women now earning £2,200 more than men on average. Suicide is the single biggest cause of death amongst young men, with the report noting that a man in the East Midlands is 6 times more likely to take his own life than a woman who lives in London. So tonight I'm asking, has gender equality left British boys at the back of the queue? Let me know your thoughts. You can go to gbnews.com/your say. Going head-to-head on this now, our former BBC presenter Roger Bolton and the Senior Fellow at the Centre for Social Justice and GB News presenter Miriam Kate. Thank you very much. Tremendous to have you both on the show. Miriam, I'll start with you. Do you think it's fair to say, then, that boys are at the back of the queue and that this is a result of a push for, I don't know, what would you say, gender equality, diversity, whatever you think?
Well, yes, it does seem to be that boys are at the back of the queue, and I think that the results from our study are really quite alarming. Boys falling behind girls even before they even start school. So 75% of girls are what we call school ready, just 60% of boys. And I think the real problem is that disparity is growing and growing. And as I've already said, as you move through schools, boys get worse results. And then even in university now, 2/3 of undergraduates are women. And if you look at the professions that used to be predominantly male, you could absolutely argue for gender equality, but 2/3 of medical students, for example, are women, 2/3 of law students. So things have changed very, very rapidly. Now, you might say, well, why does that matter? And of course, there's no reason at all why women shouldn't have equal opportunities in education and employment. But when you have a whole generation of working age, fighting age men who are disenfranchised, hopeless, don't have a chance at finding employment, and therefore have less chance of finding a partner and becoming a father, that is a problem for the whole of society, not just the young men involved.
Yeah, Roger, what's your take on this report that's come out then? And do you think that there's a chance that a generation of young boys, now maybe young men, have been brought up with this notion that they are in some way inherently toxic and full of privilege, and actually we're now seeing that play out, which is that more of them have screwed their lives up?
No. I think what you've got here is a very good report for the Centre of Social Justice, which does really good and interesting things, though it admits itself that it doesn't yet know the causes of the problem it's identified. What it doesn't justify is your statement that has gender equality left boys behind. What it identifies is a consistent record of girls doing better than boys educationally. But when you look at the statistics for example, whether women are paid more than men, there's still a big gender gap, which varies between 11.3%, women are getting paid less than men, 11.3%, to 7% if you believe another source. If you look at the number of businesses run by women, it's only 15%. The idea that you advantage or deal with this problem with young men by disadvantaging women or holding them back is a quite extraordinary notion. It's one thing to analyse the problem, another thing to say, hold back women who are still disadvantaged because boys are not doing too well.
So neither of those things is the report saying, and do we believe? So first of all, there is a so-called gender pay gap amongst people over 25. And that is purely the result of women who have children tend to take time out of a career and therefore earn less while they're working not at all or part-time, and therefore tend to go back in different professions, different grades by choice. Okay, there isn't an objective pay gap because it's illegal to pay a man and a woman different amounts of the same job. But what we're saying is for the first time ever in the emerging generation, so that's 18 to 25, for the first time ever, so this is men and women working full-time before they've had children, men are working less. So that's significant. Secondly,
hold on. Let me answer that point. You're absolutely right.
One at a time, guys. Sorry, we'll let Roger in, Miriam, and I'll come back to you. Sorry, go on, Roger.
You're absolutely right, of course, in your figures about the under 25s, but over 25, of course, there's still a massive gap. And one of the reasons why women are still disadvantaged significantly is because there isn't proper childcare, paid for, isn't sufficient childcare, and whatever. The danger of what you're doing is to suggest that women are in some way specially advantaged, and that the gender equality, the push for a greater gender equality, has resulted in boys being pushed back. The problem with boys has gone on for much longer. The educational problem has gone on for much longer.
Yeah, but Roger, it does seem. Look, Roger, can I just come in here, because it does seem like every single other class and type of human being, other than predominantly your working class white boy, has had some form of leg up recently. And then why do you think suicide is the single biggest killer of men under the age of 40? Roger? I mean, is there not something going badly wrong there, and maybe life's attitude towards those people?
Well, I think that if you look at that maybe, I don't know this, right, but I'm just suggesting something. It may be that suicide among boys and men have been higher proportionately, or virtually always been higher. I think there's a serious problem there. There's a massive problem with why men are, 95% or more of people in jail are men. There's a real problem with white working class boys, and one of the key problems identified by the report and Centre for Social Justice is fatherlessness. The fathers aren't there.
Okay.
Now, we've got to find ways of dealing with that, but don't penalise women for the problem.
Miriam, just final word and quickly, keep it quick.
Roger, we are not in any way, and nowhere in the report does it suggest that we want to penalise women. And you know, if you've read the report, you know that that's not true.
No,
but when men are unhappy, when boys are unhappy, girls and women are unhappy too. If one sex wins, both sex loses. And what we're saying is that our current education system does not deliver for boys, and it leaves boys and young men in a place where they're not able to contribute to society for all sorts of reasons. Depression, anxiety, ADHD, hopelessness. There are all sorts of reasons for that. The decline in industry, the decline in marriage. We're not saying that girls should be disadvantaged. We're saying that men and women are different. They need different things. And at the moment, our education system is skewed towards girls.
Thank you very much. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry. We're out of time. Roger, I'm sorry. We're bang out of time, I'm afraid. I'm sorry. Well done, everyone. Thank you, though. Good stuff. Right, it's Miriam Case there, Roger Bowles, BBC. What I will say, as well, is that young lads need to stop wasting their lives dealing drugs, smoking weed, doing all of this kind of stuff. Seriously, if you want a job and you want the opposite sex to find you attractive, don't park outside my flat smoking weed in your Renault Clio until 3 a.m. every morning. No one wants to be with that, mate. Anyway, coming up, new research has blown the lid off the government's march to net zero. It's stifling economic growth and making British families poorer. So, is it not time for a rethink? Former editor of The Sun, Calvin Mackenzie, joins me live very soon. You'll not believe the amount of money we are paying, you are paying, to turn wind turbines off. But first, King Charles welcomed Zelensky with open arms yesterday. I've got a concern, though. I think the King is becoming too political. Stay tuned.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
There's some wet and windy weather on the way for Iberia over the next couple of days, but higher pressure further east is bringing some sunshine. However, there is still some showers around, particularly across parts of Greece, Cyprus and Turkey. High pressure, though, brings sunshine to parts of Italy and southern France. However, low pressure very much in charge further west, with plenty of rain and strong winds, and those temperatures generally in the mid to high teens for much of Tenerife and the Canary Islands. There is some sunshine on the way and temperatures are on the rise by the time we get to Friday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you want your news to be straight talking... This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
We featured the hunt for Piglet, the Chihuahua, who vanished after a burglary on a canal boat in Uxbridge last March.
Well, his owner, Mel, desperate to be reunited, has recruited the services of pet detective Colin Butcher.
And what is a pet detective, Colin?
The best way to describe it is I'm a private detective, but I only specialise in animal cases.
And do you ever have to deal with dog abductions? We know that they're happening more and more now, aren't they? They happen very frequently, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Pet Abduction Act. I still class them as dog thefts, because that's what they are.
Yeah, this came in under the Tories, didn't it, in August. So a lot of people wouldn't be aware of this, that it wasn't actually a crime, was it, to steal a dog or cat?
And animals were treated as an item of property, and there's no consideration whatsoever for the owner's torment and mental anguish, which is considerable when your pet goes missing.
Of course it is, Colin. The thing is, that if the police treat it like someone's nicked your bike and whatever, that's very unfortunate and you think really bad, but you can always buy a new bike.
Yes.
What is it like, and you've seen it up close and personal, when people lose something so dear to them?
The heart has no way of deciding how much grief and anguish there will be, whether it's a member of your family or whether it's a pet. So you still suffer, but you also have that horrible feeling of guilt that you shouldn't be grieving that way, or you feel guilty that you could have done more before your animal was stolen or went missing. And then there are people thinking, well, it's only a pet. So it's a really, really difficult time for owners.
The People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Coming up, is net zero making you poorer? I'll reveal how much money you have spent to turn wind turbines off. But first, King Charles welcomed Volodymyr Zelensky with open arms to his Sandringham estate yesterday evening. Palisades were quick to play down suggestions that this was a deliberate show of royal support for the Ukrainian president just days after his confrontation with Trump in the Oval Office. But does he run the risk now of being too politically involved? I mean, last month, Number 10 were forced to deny dragging the King into politics when he visited a new housing project alongside the Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner. And now here he is. Apparently, the reason that meeting happened with the King and Zelensky is because Zelensky asked for it. Obviously, of course he did. But why did we let it happen? Joining me now is editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffith. Charlotte, thank you very much. Is there a concern here, maybe, that the King is getting too political?
I think the King has always been political, and it's no surprise, really, because, of course, here's a man that came to power as the monarch after waiting for 70 years. He's incredibly intellectual. I mean, his biggest strength is also his weakness, because he's a very bright man, he's very well-read, and he's formed opinions. And the late Queen was in her 20s when she became Queen. So she grew up knowing she couldn't have political opinions. And unfortunately, the King just has got political opinions and he cannot help himself. So we know that in 2023, he wore a Greek tie in a nod to the Elgin marbles. We know that we know where he stands on Ukraine, actually, because he's spoken about it at length in the past. And it's so interesting that you brought that housing example up, because we know he's got really strong opinions on how houses should be built around the country. And we know that it's very likely he'll be extremely anti-building on the green belt. So the thing is, we do know his opinions, but could he really say no to Keir Starmer? He probably couldn't. You know, Zelensky asked for that meeting. Keir Starmer approved it. He's utterly powerless. And that's the thing. Although he's political, he's pretty powerless. There's very little
Keir Starmer has used the King quite a bit for political power recently. I mean, clearly with Trump very recently, and now with Zelensky. I just wonder if our Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, is dragging the King into these things. You say that the King can't really turn that down, all right. But, you know, should Keir Starmer be doing this, really, using the King like this?
Well, I actually think it's completely embarrassing that he paraded the King's signature, which had obviously been written in extra big handwriting for television cameras, when he invited Trump for a state visit. And then 2 days later, to invite him to meet Zelensky, and of course Trudeau as well, which will only aggravate Trump because, you know, the Canada debacle. So it is embarrassing for the King, and he's not a very well man, and he's being sort of brought out left, right and centre to do Keir Starmer's bidding. But then again, Keir Starmer's on a mission to be the bridge between Zelensky and the US. And I suppose Charles will think, if I can play a role in that, I will. But there's nothing you can do.
It's quite ironic, actually, isn't it, that Keir Starmer used to want to abolish the monarchy. And I mean, I bet he's over the moon. It exists now, isn't he? He's using it every single opportunity. But Charlotte, I mean, we've got something else that's very important, of course. It's less than 24 hours until Meghan Markle's latest Netflix show is released. The Duchess of Sussex posted a behind-the-scenes preview on social media. Let's have a little look at this, shall we?
Laid under the willow tree, the last weekend of summer, the empire at our fingertips, the autumn to discover.
So apparently, Charlotte, Netflix have paid the couple $100 million for a series of programmes. Is money well spent, do we think?
I don't think so. The very first series they did, which was, of course, trashing the monarchy left, right and centre, was very, very well watched. But everything else has been dross, as far as I can tell. She's just done an interview for People magazine to accompany this little clip and the release tomorrow of the series. And in it, she sort of spills all her secrets and talks gushingly about Harry. But it's quite low rent, isn't it? People magazine, you know, it's not Vanity Fair. And if I was Netflix, I'd be thinking, oh, you know, we could up the calibre a bit here. But her deal comes to an end in April, and I'll be really interested to see if it gets renewed, because everything is riding on this show. And in the People magazine interview, she alluded to the fact that this show has helped her marriage with Harry, because they're now in a honeymoon period. Because when she met him, she was doing a blog, a food blog, and this has reminded him of who she really is and who she was when he first met her. And I did get the impression in that People magazine interview that actually there's a lot riding in their relationship on this series and how well it does. But in answer to your question, are Netflix getting a good deal? I don't think so.
No, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. So I think I'm right in saying by this time tomorrow, by the time I'm on air, we will have had the first tranche of Meghan episodes released, won't we? So watch this space, Charlotte. Although, by the looks of it, you are in a much better place than I am right now. I think Barbados, enjoy it. I've been there once when I was younger, and it had the time of my life. So, yeah, take care. Charlotte Griffiths there, of course, who's the editor-at-large at The Mail on Sunday. Thank you very much. Good stint that from Paradise, essentially. Anyway, coming up at 10 p.m.
And today I'm announcing a new deal, which allows Ukraine to use £1.6 billion of UK export finance to...
Look, I'm very sceptical about this. 1.6 billion quid in air defence missiles, 2.26 billion pounds as a loan, 3 billion quids every year for as long as it takes, but nothing for British pensioners and farmers. Look, where does Prime Minister Keir Starmer keep finding all this money for Ukraine? That's at 10 p.m, but first, new research has blown the lid off the government's march to net zero. I will reveal how much money you, the taxpayer, has spent in order to turn off wind turbines. Oh, and there's still time to get your ticket to be here, right here in this studio on Friday night. Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Touch of frost and some fog patches around tomorrow morning. For many, it'll be another fine spring day, though, with some sunshine. But there will be some wet and windy weather coming into the far north. High pressure is holding on across the south. This weather front is fizzling out, but another one is approaching. And as those isobars squeeze together, the winds will strengthen once more across northern Scotland overnight. Bit of drizzly rain at times in western Scotland, but for most it's a dry night. The clear skies in the south allowing the temperatures to tumble, getting down to -1, -2, even in towns and cities. Rural spots quite a bit lower than that. We could start at -5 or -6. Meanwhile, we'll start at +5 or +6 with the cloud cover across the north. As well as the frost, there will be a few dense fog patches across parts of the south, particularly the southeast. So bear that in mind for Tuesday morning's commutes. But once they've cleared, much of England and Wales dry, fine and sunny. Generally a bit brighter than today across the Lake District and for Northern Ireland. The thickest clouds tomorrow are going to be across northern Scotland, where we'll see light rain initially, but it is going to turn a bit heavier as we go through the day. And another thing, those winds will continue to strengthen, really getting quite blustery at times across northern Scotland. Strong gusts throughout tomorrow. A bit breezy across Northern Ireland, particularly the north coast, but generally elsewhere the wind's fairly light, so feeling very pleasant come the afternoon. After we start below freezing, we'll be up into the teens in a few spots, and with those light winds feeling pretty pleasant. Now, the fog will thicken up again as we go through Tuesday night, if anything likely to be more dense across southern counties on Wednesday morning. But again, once that's gone, plenty of fine weather. A bit more cloud again across northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. Some patchy rain, chiefly in the northwest. Still quite breezy here, but not as gusty as Tuesday. And again, for many, temperatures double figures and in the sunshine, climbing into the teens. Bye for now.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Coming up, how do you feel about so much money going to Ukraine? But first, the Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, well, his net zero drive has made working families poorer. That's according to new research, directly contradicting the Chancellor's claims that decarbonising the energy grid does not stunt economic growth. Analysis by the investment bank Peel Hunt has revealed a steep decline in electricity supply since the early 2000s that they say is intrinsically linked to stunted growth in living standards. And in another shocking net zero revelation, Britain is now paying £180,000 an hour to switch off wind farms, and it's cost you £252 million so far this year. Mad, isn't it? Joined now by the former editor of The Sun, Calvin Mackenzie. Calvin, I mean, 252 million quid in the first 2 months of 2025 to stop wind farms. Isn't it a bit mental?
Yes, well, the truth about the matter is that the wind farms produce too much energy and our pipes can't cope with it. Now, they knew when they put these wind farms out there that this was going to happen, and it has happened. So when you build these wind farms, they're very expensive. They create a lot of energy. And so the people creating the energy, not unreasonably, sign a deal which says, you've got to take a certain amount of energy off us. And the government say, well, actually, if we can't take it off you, we'll give you money from the taxpayer so that you just get rid of it, right? And that isn't what's happening. But actually, I mean, that is beyond bizarre. But even worse, actually, was that Peel Hunt piece of analysis, because what it showed was that since 2008, who do you think was the Energy Secretary of State in 2008?
Yeah.
You're right, Mr. Miliband, right? He passed the Climate Change Act. From that moment onwards, the amount of energy that we have actually consumed, commercially or residentially, has gone down. And the point that Peel Hunt makes is that every economy in the world where we've turned down has led to us becoming poorer. And we are becoming poorer. If you saw some stats today, the average pay in America now is £65,000. It has gone up 72% over since 2008.
The average, that's insane.
Yeah, the average. What has happened to ours is that our relative pay in that period of time has gone down 2%. We are becoming poorer. And what Peel Hunt say, and in direct contradiction, as you pointed out, to what Rachel Reeves said, is that when there is a lack of energy being consumed, there is a lack of economic growth. Our country is getting smaller to the point where we will be poorer than both Poland and South Korea by 2030. An extraordinary moment, great for them, but there is something going on in our country. And
one of the things is that we're allowing the dregs of the world in, Calvin. No, but I'm sorry, one of the things is that we're allowing the dregs of the world in. We suppose this idea that we only accept the best and the brightest from every country. We're also accepting some of the worst people, right, from parts of the world.
Okay, that's a very good point. So you take today, yesterday, 592 migrants came in, right? The biggest number in March since they started taking any kind of stats, rather than going, oh yes, hello, welcome, pleased to see you, right? Directly did that. So whoever, the smugglers did not get the email saying we're going to smash the gangs. While we're focusing on Ukraine, I'm not saying Ukraine's not a massive issue, but actually in our country, at least a comparable issue or a different issue is migration. So there's a whole series of things going wrong. And the trouble is that it's come together with a government that doesn't really recognise any of them. It thinks net zero is a good moment. I'd love to see Ed Miliband sit down with you for half an hour, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 minutes, 30 seconds, and actually justify
you know what's very interesting about Ed Miliband, right, is that we here on this show, we, as you will imagine, have to go for right of replies to various different people, OK? And there have been some serious stories in relation to Ed Miliband and the awarding of contracts or his position in relation to whether or not he has, helped to conduct research, which inexplicably has said that every single thing that he wants to do is correct and influence policy, all of this stuff. And he's one of, I would say, the few people who are worst at coming back to you. I don't think he feels the need to justify anything. That's the view that I get. He doesn't really ever feel the need, I don't think, to justify anything that he's doing. I think there's quite a bit of arrogance there.
Right. Well, he would be probably the biggest spender, or one of the biggest spenders, sitting around that cabinet table. And it's a future spend as well. It's not only today. It looks as though, if you believe the Peel Hunt numbers, and why do they care one way or the other? I haven't got any clients in that area. It looks like 10 billion a year for as far as the eye can see. I wouldn't mind, but when we're becoming smaller than Poland, you have to, as an economy, you have to wonder, what is it we're doing wrong? And one of the things we're doing wrong, and one of the things the United States are doing right, and why Trump feels that he can be so bullish about the world, is he says all the time, we are going to drill.
Yep, 100%. And I just wonder how sustainable this is now. Seriously, talk about sustainable energy. Seriously, how much longer are people going to tolerate bills going up, everything going up, public services getting worse, numpties like Ed Miliband from however much his house is worth and all of this stuff, saying they're dictating to us, people wanting to keep a war going in Ukraine, a war that is making us all poorer. I'm not saying we should side with Putin. I'm absolutely not saying that. But what I am saying is it seems remarkable to me how many people on the left are very happy for a war to carry on that is making us all poorer. But Calvin, we're going to have to go. But thank you very much. You take care. Calvin McKenzie, there, former editor of The Sun. We do have a Department for Energy Security and Net Zero spokesperson saying, we do not recognise these findings. These clean energy transition is the economic opportunity of the 21st century. Our clean power mission will replace our dependency on unstable fossil fuel markets with homegrown clean power controlled in Britain. I will just remind you again that £252 million in the first 2 months of this year is the money that you have spent turning off wind turbines. So, make of that what you will. But coming up at 10 p.m.
And today I'm announcing a new deal which allows Ukraine to use £1.6 billion of UK export finance to buy more than 5,000 air defence missiles.
I thought we were skin. 1.6 billion quid in air defence missiles, 2.26 billion pounds in a loan that we're obviously never going to get back, 3 billion pounds every year for as long as it takes, but nothing for British pensioners and farmers. Where's this money coming from? Stay tuned.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Touch of frost and some fog patches around tomorrow morning. For many, it'll be another fine spring day, though, with some sunshine. But there will be some wet and windy weather coming into the far north. High pressure is holding on across the south. This weather front is fizzling out, but another one is approaching. And as those isobars squeeze together, the winds will strengthen once more across northern Scotland overnight. Bit of drizzly rain at times in western Scotland, but for most it's a dry night. The clear skies in the south allowing the temperatures to tumble, getting down to -1, -2, even in towns and cities. Rural spots quite a bit lower than that. We could start at -5 or -6. Meanwhile, we'll start at +5 or +6 with the cloud cover across the north. As well as the frost, there will be a few dense fog patches across parts of the south, particularly the southeast. So bear that in mind for Tuesday morning's commutes. But once they've cleared, much of England and Wales dry, fine and sunny. Generally a bit brighter than today across the Lake District and for Northern Ireland. The thickest clouds tomorrow are going to be across northern Scotland, where we'll see light rain initially, but it is going to turn a bit heavier as we go through the day. And another thing, those winds will continue to strengthen, really getting quite blustery at times across northern Scotland. Strong gusts throughout tomorrow. A bit breezy across Northern Ireland, particularly the north coast, but generally elsewhere the wind's fairly light, so feeling very pleasant come the afternoon. After we start below freezing, we'll be up into the teens in a few spots, and with those light winds feeling pretty pleasant. Now, the fog will thicken up again as we go through Tuesday night, if anything likely to be more dense across southern counties on Wednesday morning. But again, once that's gone, plenty of fine weather. A bit more cloud again across northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. Some patchy rain, chiefly in the northwest. Still quite breezy here, but not as gusty as Tuesday. And again, for many, temperatures double figures and in the sunshine, climbing into the teens. Bye for now.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could be one of 2 big winners in our latest giveaway, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on the 7th of March. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Headliners on GB News, 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight.
And today I'm announcing a new deal which allows Ukraine to use £1.6 billion of UK export finance to buy more than 5,000 air defence missiles.
Where is all this money coming from, Prime Minister? And is the King getting a little bit too political? Should he really be meeting Zelensky? Plus,
I want to see it end fast. I don't want to see this go on for years and years.
yeah, Trump has chimed in again tonight. In other news, though, what are we looking at here? Is this another terror attack in Europe? 2 dead as a man ploughs a car into people in Mannheim. Also,
lots of security on here too. Hello.
Where are you from?
What?
Where are you from?
Media. Oh, you guys? Okay.
Call the reception.
Call the reception.
I have got some very good news for you. It's victory, as unaccompanied illegal migrant children have been sent back to France. I'll tell you why that is actually great news for Britain. Also, kicked off outside a mosque in Birmingham. On my panel tonight, it's the Daily Express columnist Carol Malone. We've got political commentator Susie Stride, the former chairman of the Tory party, Sir Jake Berry. Right, and can any of you please tell me what you think is going on with these mice here? What is... if anyone guesses this, seriously, you are a much better man than I am. I don't think you can guess that. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Will Starmer's tough guy acts get us all killed? Next.
Very good evening to you from the newsroom just after 10 o'clock. Keir Starmer says resolving the war in Ukraine will be the test of our times, as he vows Britain will lead from the front in securing peace. The Prime Minister told MPs that Russia poses a direct threat to the UK, carrying out cyber attacks and even assassination attempts on Britain's streets. It comes after a week of talks with Volodymyr Zelensky, Donald Trump and European leaders. But tensions between Kyiv and Washington rumble on, with Trump saying Zelensky should be more appreciative of US support. Zelensky, though, insists peace is needed as soon as possible. 2 people have been killed and 10 others left injured after a car drove into pedestrians in the German city of Mannheim. Police say the 40-year-old suspect is believed to have acted deliberately, but they've ruled out a political motive, pointing instead to mental ill health. After the crash, he shot himself but survived and is in hospital in a stable condition. 5 of those injured remain in a serious condition, and officers are treating the 2 deaths as murder. Here at home, farmers are planning fresh protests against the government's inheritance tax changes with a Pancake Day rally tomorrow. They're angry at plans to tax agricultural land and property worth over £1 million, which is currently exempt, at 20% from April 2026. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, is now being accused of ignoring farmers' concerns while softening tax rules for wealthy non-DOMs. The Conservatives say the policy shows Labour doesn't understand rural communities. Pope Francis is back on mechanical ventilation after suffering 2 episodes of acute respiratory failure on Monday, the Vatican said. Doctors intervened to clear mucus from his lungs, though the 88-year-old remained alert throughout. It's the 3rd setback now since he was admitted to hospital around 18 days ago with pneumonia. The pontiff will miss Wednesday's Lent celebrations. Now the 3rd week in a row he's been too ill to deliver his Sunday prayer in person. Hundreds last night gathered in St. Peter's Square to pray for his recovery. And the ceasefire in Gaza is on the brink of collapse, with Israel halting humanitarian aid until Hamas accepts a new deal. The proposal, backed by the United States, would extend the truce by 50 days during Ramadan and Passover in exchange for half of the remaining hostages. Hamas says Israel, though, is trying to avoid talks as pressure grows from the UN and Arab states to resume aid. Both sides are preparing to resume fighting while weighing up their options for peace. Those are the latest headlines for now. One more roundup from me at 11 o'clock. Now, though, let's get back to Patrick.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome along. I am very sceptical about the Prime Minister's position on Ukraine. I am very concerned by how many so-called left-wing liberals seem content for war in Europe to go on indefinitely. Are they also happy for their taxes to go up to fund this war? Are they happy for British troops to be put in harm's way directly? I doubt it. Well, the Prime Minister said the UK's support for Ukraine made him proud to be British. I just don't think Keir Starmer knows what it means to be proud to be British. He used to want to abolish the monarchy. His close friend, the Attorney General, Lord Hermer, appears to have represented pretty much every single wrong'un the world has ever seen, up to and including Gerry Adams and a man who facilitated the 9/11 terror attacks. Starmer's a huge Europhile, an international law obsessive. Keir Starmer's approval ratings have tanked in Britain. Many people think he's the worst Prime Minister we've ever had. So scenes like this are very convenient for him. He's there, playing the big man, isn't he? European leaders, Canada's Justin Trudeau is there. Of course, Zelensky is. I mean, of course, Zelensky's there. He turned up, so we give him an extra £1.6 billion on top of the £2.26 billion, and we let him meet the king. I mean, I'd turn up for that, wouldn't you? Of course, European leaders and Trudeau are there. They hate Trump. I mean, they are there as much to show unity against Trump as they are unity against Putin. It's the first time Starmer's had positive press from both the left and the right, so, of course, he's going to lean into it. But where does that lead us?
We must proceed with strength, and that does now require urgently a coalition of the willing. Mr. Speaker, we agreed on Sunday that those willing to play a role in this will intensify planning now. And as this House would expect, Britain will play a leading role, with, if necessary, and together with others, boots on the ground and planes in the air.
Oh, I bet Putin's quivering in his shoes looking at Rachel Reeves and Angela Rayner flanking Keir Starmer there. But anyway, it looks as though that leads us to British troops in Ukraine and British planes in the sky. So, what happens if Putin shoots at us? Are we at war? Keir Starmer needs to realise that establishment elitist political journalists and his fellow MPs are actually not a representative of wider society. Now, the opinion polls on this are very interesting. Should we put British troops in Ukraine in the event of a peace deal? 37% somewhat supported it. A couple of body bags coming back to Britain could change that opinion poll very, very quickly. When it comes to defence spending, most people think it's more important to continue to fund public services than our military. So if we start having to go without in order to protect Ukraine, in fact, I argue we already are, by the way, support for that could fall through very quickly. All this talk of defending Europe by those EU elites, what have they been doing for the last 2 decades? They let this awful picture, and it is an awful picture, and a warning, by the way, this is horrible, OK? It's that famous picture now of a young Syrian boy's body washing up on a beach in Turkey. They let that picture open the floodgates to the Middle East and Africa into Europe. But then they turned a blind eye to stuff like this, time and time again, and they expect us to ignore it and just get on with it.
The moment a truck speeds up and then ploughs through crowds of people gathering for a national celebration in Nice in France.
Let's have a look at who is in Keir Starmer's coalition of the willing. Well, we don't know because no one's telling us. We think it might be France, but it's not Poland and it's not Germany. They won't put boots on the ground. Hungary and Slovakia would veto any NATO plans. It's not actually a united front at all. And Britain could be left very exposed here. Keir Starmer said he's going to do this.
Starting today, I can announce this government will begin the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War. Yeah. We will deliver our commitment to spend 2.5% of GDP on defence, but we will bring it forward so that we reach that level in 2027. Yeah. And we will maintain that for the rest of this Parliament.
All right, fine. Not against that. I don't think that many people are against that. But is any other European country doing this? What are they doing? Is it just up to us to pay more, is it? I mean, we say we're giving a £2.26 billion loan to Ukraine. We're not getting that money back, are we? giving a loan to historically one of the most corrupt countries in the world that also happens to be in the middle of a war. Just wave goodbye to that money, everybody. It's not a loan, it's gone, all right? It is always going to be easier for Keir Starmer to toss a load of money at Ukraine instead of sorting out problems in his own country like the NHS, illegal immigration, helping freezing pensioners, farmers. I am not pro-Putin. Russia is obviously the aggressor. But I feel deeply for the Ukrainian people. But I am worried that our European leaders don't seem desperate for peace. They seem to think we're all happy to pay for war, whatever that cost may be. Let's get thoughts from our panel this evening. We have Carol Malone there from the Daily Express, Susie Stride, political commentator, and we've also got Sir Jake Berry as well, former Tory party chairman. Look, this is the issue, and I will say this time and time again, that I think splits GB News viewers and listeners more than any other issue. So, you know, I know there'll be people watching this and listening to this who have completely agreed with what I said, people who've completely disagreed with what I've said. This is probably the biggest split. Where are you on this, Carol, when it comes to what we're seeing at the moment? Do you think we're being left a bit vulnerable? Should we be sorting out more problems at home? What do you think?
I think Starmer particularly, I think this is all gesture politics. It's very easy to talk about putting troops on the ground when he knows full well that Putin will never agree to a peacekeeping force in Ukraine. He just will not agree to it. I think the bottom line is, you know, Europe doesn't have the economic resources to bankroll Ukraine's war effort. Crucially, if Russia decided to invade, what are these peacekeeping forces going to do? Because you know how many are going to be there at any one time? 15,000. That's all. That's from all of Europe put together. They're going to be 3 separate brigades of 15,000, and only 15,000 can be there at any one time. Zelensky has said it would need a force of 200,000 troops to protect Ukraine. Zelensky himself has said that the peacekeeping effort won't work without support from Russia. So let me just finish this about Starmer. I think for Starmer, this is totally self-serving. I think this is a man who was trying to rescue a shattered reputation, and he's making promises he can't keep. He even said in the past couple of days that Ukraine's route to NATO is being speeded up. It's tosh. They're never going to get into NATO. So, for me, this is gesture politics. It's him playing politics, and it's really bad.
Susie, I am concerned that Keir Starmer is thinking that his reputation and his polling is awful, and that he might decide to just plough ahead with whatever here, and actually it's putting us all at risk.
I mean, I feel a bit appalled by this discussion. Sorry, I really genuinely do. I think it's absolutely fine for you guys to have criticism of Starmer on a whole lot of things. But I'm sorry. I mean, is it just me? I don't know about you, but one of the things for me about being British is that we stand up to bullies.
We've not...
Russia... Sorry, let me finish. Sorry, let me finish. Russia, you know, killed a British citizen not that long ago, could have killed hundreds more. OK, this is a tyrant. This is something that comes to our shores. They have attacked through cyber attacks, the NHS. They have cut lines. Our energy bills have gone through the roof because of the conflict there. Look, we can have differences of opinions, but I think, I'm sorry, if I was Prime Minister right now, this is what I would be doing. You stand up to tyrants. If you let someone like Putin... I'm trying to work out what the alternative here. If you let him get away with what he's doing, if you let him get away with what he's doing, what message does that send to China, North Korea and Iran and all these other countries?
Do you have any idea what the size of our deployable army is in this country? Do you
look, what I agree with...
Sorry, you're saying we have to stand up to bullies.
Yes, we do need to stand... No, because Carol, you're saying that Keir Starmer is doing what he's doing out of gesturing. I think that's wrong. I think that's wrong. I like you personally, but I think that's wrong. And in fact, sorry, but for the first time in a long time, you had James Cleverly, you know, and across... And this is really important. I'm sorry. Let's get it right, guys. This is one of the things that makes us great. Across the House today, everybody was agreeing and saying, we stand up to Putin.
Yeah, there's an establishment view, isn't there? I wonder how many of those people will be willing to send their own kids to fight and die.
No, but that's not what needs to go on here. We're talking about peacekeeping troops.
Europeans do not want to die for Ukraine.
It's really important. Should not play politics with this issue.
All right, go on.
Well, I often come here and quite critical of what the government has done. I think Keir Starmer has done very well in the last few days, coming from his successful press conference. He actually showed people how to build a good relationship with Trump. His successful press conference, and I think it's welcome that he has taken this leading role in Europe for the people of Britain. There's two things I would say is, though, first of all, when President Trump was campaigning to become the President of the United States, he said 3 things in relation to Ukraine. The first one he said was that he wanted Europe to take the lead. That is now happening. The second thing he said is that he wanted Europe to increase defence spending, and we've heard from the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, that is now happening. And he also said that he wanted European troops to hold the peace. And if you believe what the Prime Minister said, and I'm sure he's absolutely sincere and he's making good progress, that is also going to happen. So as much as we might criticise Donald Trump, and those scenes in the Oval Office were appalling. As much as we might criticise Donald Trump, actually he is helping make progress to peace here. And the final thing I'd say, Susie, you are absolutely right that there was an appalling murder of British citizens on British soil in Salisbury, poisoned with a Russian chemical. I just wonder why Keir Starmer at that time supported Jeremy Corbyn, who doubted the fact at that time that the Russians had committed that attack. So he was part of the shadow
I don't know if that's true.
No, it's true.
I mean, look, Jeremy Corbyn, as far as I'm concerned, is an utter joke. This is something we'd all agree on. And do you know what? You know, I probably did more than you guys to make sure that guy was never, you know, Prime Minister of this country, because for me that would have been an utter disaster. And I don't think that is true. Sorry to say that again about Keir Starmer. But I think
you say it wrong. Let's just be clear about the facts, because you said I'm wrong and I'm not. There was an attack in Salisbury, and the British government said, Porton Down, the Chemical, Radiological and Biological Weapons Unit in Britain, has identified that this Novichok poison has come from Russia. Jeremy Corbyn said, I do not accept that's true. We should send it to Russia for them to test it. Keir Starmer was a member of the Shadow Cabinet and supported Jeremy Corbyn in that. So what you say is wrong, and what I have said is true.
No. Sorry. Let's just get this right. You know, look, ultimately, at that time, people were in his shadow cabinet and having to be oppressed by Jeremy Corbyn. That's what happened. We all felt oppressed by him. So I think it's a point that's...
How on earth do we think he can stand up to Putin?
No, because the point... No, what I'm saying is, you know, you're kind of towing the party line, but the point is, I think that's just the point of... No, they were towing the party line then. I think what I'm saying now... What I'm saying now is we've had...
Because I want to... Look, we had that room full of EU leaders there, and I would say, I've said this to our Blues players, they've not given a toss about Europe. Nope. They haven't bothered defending it. They've allowed it to be a pseudo-invasion, as far as I'm concerned. We're seeing terror attacks every other week. We see all this stuff. They've not given a toss about Europe, protecting Europe. And now they're there. This coalition of the willing, all right? On paper, great idea, coalition of the willing. Who's in it? We don't even know who's in it. What does it mean?
You touched on it before when you said... then Europe is not willing to die for Ukraine, and then sure as hell not willing to send their kids to die for Ukraine. And all of this is talk. There's going to be the peacekeeping force will not save Ukraine, because if Putin decides to invade, if you think 15,000 soldiers from Europe is going to put him off, it's really not. This is just a whole lot of Europeans trying to look like they're doing something. You know, when Boris was in power, he really did make a difference. He committed money immediately from this country to think, and he shamed Europe and the US into giving money. This is nonsense. What is happening now is never going to protect Ukraine, and that's why the US has to be involved in any
100%. Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I agree with Carol on that. 100%. You have to have America involved. This is why ultimately the mineral deal is going to be important, because you're going to have Americans in that region, and that's going to be important. But the thing is part of what
jumping on a bandwagon here.
No, I don't.
Because the bottom line is that any deal that is done is not going to be done with Europe or Starmer. It's going to be done between Putin and Trump.
Look, there's a reason why today in the House you saw Kemi Badenoch and, you know, James Cleverly and people from all sides agreeing, because ultimately they've got to put their best foot forward, haven't they? They've got to show this is the strongest thing we can do. Now, ultimately, as we've just been chatting about, you know, there is a whole lot of games that are going to be played behind the scenes and in front of cameras. But part of what they've got to do is show this is the strongest possible thing we can do. You are absolutely right to say that Europe... I'm trying to agree with you. You're absolutely right to say that Europe hasn't done enough, you know.
Starmer and the EU's job is to persuade Ukraine to the carve up. That's what they're there to do. They're not there to help Ukraine. They're there to persuade them to take Trump's deal. That's what it's all about. And they're not going to peacekeep. No, Putin is never going to agree to a peacekeeping force in Ukraine. It's never going to happen. So Starmer can promise whatever he likes. They can look like the big...
Surely that's ultimately up to the people of Ukraine what deal they accept. But I think what I do think... Well, of course it is, but I do...
I get that. Look, I absolutely get... And again, I'll preface it. I've said this numerous times on this show, because this is such a complicated topic. If Putin had invaded like Carlisle or somewhere, I wouldn't want him to get a single piece of it.
Exactly.
Obviously, I wouldn't. But he didn't invade Carlisle, he invaded Ukraine, a country that I've never been to, and many people in this country have never been to. And Ukraine might now have to lose a bit of territory.
Well, I think we've got a strong connection with Ukraine because there are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of Ukrainians in the United Kingdom. One of the most uplifting things think we've seen in the last decade was the reaction of the British people welcoming Ukrainians into their homes. So I think, I think there's a lot of warmth from this country towards Ukraine. Boris Johnson, Keir Starmer, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, they're well regarded in Ukraine. We have been steadfast in our support of them. But I go back to the point that actually, to see peace in Ukraine, there has to be an American involvement. Because if you think about British troops,
it has to be.
How this war started was Russia fomenting what was allegedly an internal civil war in the Donbass region with Russian troops pretending to be Ukrainian and fighting. Just imagine if we put British armed forces into what would be paraded by Russia as an internal civil war with people shooting British troops, killing British troops. What would we do?
But what I'm saying is
it's got to be ultimately it's got to be the might of America that holds this peace together.
But I think
I don't want a single British life to be lost in the defence of Ukraine. I don't.
Yeah, but in some ways, the way you get the best deal is that you've got to show. Like right now, I don't understand. Carol, you're not letting me speak. If I can't speak, you're not going to hear what I'm saying. But I don't understand what the alternative is. Did you want us to basically all be silent this weekend? Did you want Keir Starmer and all the European leaders not to meet? What did you want to happen?
Are you putting words into my mouth now?
Well, OK, so if you wanted that to happen, I think that's quite shocking, actually.
On the same
No. We actually love each other. We actually. Do you know what? We get on very well, me and Carol. No, I don't. I'm sorry. And do you know what I say? Seriously, my grandma and grandpa, people, OK, that fought, and lived through World War II. I'm not saying it's comparable in that way, but there is something about there is an aggressor. Putin is an aggressor. There is something about saying that is a sovereign nation. There is something about saying we stand up.
There's something about saying enough's enough, money-wise, life-wise. If there's a peace deal on the table, should we just sign it? Do you think get them to sign it?
I'm very reluctant to say yes, but I don't. The alternative.
Well, at any cost. At any cost.
And years more death. That's the alternative.
Yeah, I just don't see. I don't see what. I don't want this meat grinder to continue for a while. But anyway, right. Well, I'm sure. We've resolved absolutely nothing there. But of course, that's kind of the issue we're dealing with. I know at home you guys listen to it and see it, and I don't know whether these are possibly the exact same arguments you're having on your sofa tonight. Everyone's very split on this. But in another absolutely screeching U-turn here, it is the final week to see how you can win one of our amazing prize bundles in the Great British Giveaway. Here's how.
It's the final week to see how you could be one of 2 big winners in our latest giveaway, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on the 7th of March. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
OK, so coming up, all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Oh, and it's less than 24 hours until Meghan Markle's latest Netflix show is released. Way!
The empire at our fingertips, the order to discover.
That's what 100 million quid gets you, apparently, if you're Netflix. But first, it was the story that had lefty lovies reaching for the Kleenex. A migrant couple whose children crossed the channel alone, trying to use the ECHR to join their kids in the UK. But they've been dealt a devastating blow tonight, and I reveal why this is a victory for Britain. Stay tuned.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Good morning. Are you all right?
I am all right. All the better for seeing you, my friend.
John, you've been through so much. We've just heard there about you losing your wife and losing your daughter. I'm so sorry to hear about both of those things. And despite all of that and everything you've been through, you continue to just give back. How can you do that? Just take something so negative and turn it into something so positive?
Well, Sheffield is the finest city in England. That's what I think about the Sheffield people and everybody. 250,000 I set out. I beat that. I got that. Just what's got in bucket. So I thought, well, set go ports a bit, are you? So we were for 500. And we got that. And I thought, well, why not go say for $1 million? And we got $1 million. This is what I think about my people of Sheffield. It's just entitled my city. Sheffield, my city, that will always be home to me, no matter where I go or whatever sights I will see. Wherever I return, church bells will peal as I come home to the city of steel. A cathedral, cinemas, museums, Sheffield has such beautiful places. Home to a host of people of so many races, living and working in perfect harmony. That's why Sheffield is the greatest place to be. Singing the praises of Sheffield, Sheffield, my Sheffield, as I go forth. For now we are the sporting city of the north. Wonderful people, so happy, so helpful, so kind. Sheffield, no better place you will find.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. Very shortly, all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. But first, it was the story that had bleeding heart lefties reaching for their hankies. A Turkish migrant couple whose 2 children crossed the channel alone on a small boat were trying to use the ECHR to join their kids in the UK. But now a High Court judge has backed a deal to return the 6- and 9-year-old to their parents in France after the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, struck a deal with her French counterpart. Now, there were warnings that allowing the couple to join their children in the UK would set a dangerous precedent and encourage people smuggling gangs to split up families, send kids alone across the channel and then hope their parents would join them later on. I'm joined now by the chair of Migration Watch UK, Al Mehmet. Al, great to have you on the show. Thank you very, very much. I think this is actually a very good news story for Britain, isn't it? Because we're not going to have, unaccompanied migrant children being used as a tactic to get their parents into Britain. Your thoughts?
Well, if only. I suspect it's been going on for a long time, Patrick. There are something like 7,500 there were last year anyway, being looked after unaccompanied child migrants. It's a huge cost. I mean, there was local authority saying only today that it's costing them so much that they're going to overspend by 4.2 million. We're not talking about 9 and 6-year-olds in the majority of cases. It's mid-teens, late teens. A lot of them, frankly, we probably doubt that they are the age that they say they are. Nevertheless, the benefit of the doubt is always given. Local authorities look after them. Not only do they look after them now, while they're still ostensibly under 18, but once they go beyond that, should they end up at university or higher education, the local authority continues to pay for them. It's disgraceful, really. And why the French don't take people like this back, I don't understand.
Well, this has set a precedent, though, I think, has it not, that if your parents are in France or in another safe country, then you can be returned to that, which is good.
Yeah, absolutely. Frankly, we shouldn't give the opportunity to the French or anyone else to offload their problems on us, which is what's been happening for years and years now. And absolutely right, the parents are now in France, they're going to be looked after, and they want their children back. Yes.
Well, they wanted to come here, really, didn't they? That was the thing.
Well, they did, but the judge, in his wisdom, for once, said, hold on a moment, let's see this through and see what happens.
I also thought out that, actually, this is a child abuse issue. I mean, parents can get locked up for all sorts of stuff, rightly so. I think pushing your young 6- and 9-year-old child in a boat across the Channel, the busiest shipping lane in the world, I would have regarded, if they did come to Britain, they should be arrested for child abuse, sure.
Yeah, if only, again, for the second time. The fact is that this goes on because it's a way of getting to this country. And I'm afraid it will continue to go on. The bill that's going through Parliament now, frankly, is so weak, is so toothless, that it's going to encourage this sort of thing rather than discourage it. No deterrent, as far as I can see. What there was has been removed.
OK, so you're not jumping for joy at the idea that this might now set some kind of precedent for young people, mainly because you think that they are still queuing up in Calais, and that because the other thing about Cooper's done today, of course, is extend the deal with the French. To allow the French to stop.
Patrick, over the last 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, there were over 600 people who came here.
That's like 2 hotels worth of people, essentially.
They're waiting to come over. Of course, we're talking about 9 and a 6-year-old now. So, yeah, I'm very happy for those little ones to be back with their parents. But generally, we're really mugs because we accept anyone who says, I am 17 and a half. Yeah, OK, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Here you come.
Al, thank you very much. Al Mehmet there, the chairman of Migration Watch UK. Coming up, all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. I'll bring them to you next. Oh, and brace yourselves. It's less than 24 hours until Meghan Markle's latest Netflix offering is released.
The empire at our fingertips, the art to discover.
All that and much more very soon.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
There's some wet and windy weather on the way for Iberia over the next couple of days, but higher pressure further east is bringing some sunshine. However, there is still some showers around, particularly across parts of Greece, Cyprus and Turkey. High pressure, though, brings sunshine to parts of Italy and southern France. However, low pressure very much in charge further west, with plenty of rain and strong winds, and those temperatures generally in the mid to high teens for much of Tenerife and the Canary Islands. There is some sunshine on the way and temperatures are on the rise by the time we get to Friday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. Let's have a first look, shall we, at tomorrow's newspaper front page as we start with the Eye. UK hunts new allies to keep Putin at bay. Trump launches another broadside, they say. The Metro TikTok child sex probe. Gosh. Social media giant TikTok is being investigated over how it uses children's data. Apparently, a separate probe claimed it was earning money from a live-streamed sex performance by girls aged just 15. Grief. So, well, that's horrendous, isn't it? The Daily Express, UK must lead from the front to stop Russia menace. There we go. So that's that. And the one more now, The Telegraph. They've also got Trump to Zelensky, your time's almost up. Peace deal is not that hard. Just sign the deal, basically, is what he's saying. And they've also got one here that we'll talk about a little bit later on. 3 out of 4 people will be overweight or obese by 2050. So that is the Telegraph there. That's on the front of the Telegraph. There you go. Right, but before we get stuck into that, should we have a little look at this time tomorrow? The wait will be over, everybody. Yes, after much anticipation, being branded a nightmare to work with by insiders, a 2.5-month delay due to the LA wildfires for some reason. Meghan Markle's new Netflix series, With Love, Meghan, comes out on the streaming platform tomorrow. She posted an exclusive behind-the-scenes clip on her Instagram. Shall we have a little look?
Laid under the willow tree, the last weekend of summer. The empire at our fingertips, the autumn to discover.
Right then, who'll be watching? Anyone? You going to be watching it?
Oh, yeah, but, like, not because...
Only if you're paid, though, Carol.
Yeah,
to write for the Express
so I
on
can
it.
write something terrible in my column about it, yeah. I mean, I just think this is all nonsense. I loved the fact on Friday when Kate went to Wales on a visit, she gave her recipe for plum jam away for free. While Meghan's trying to make a shed load of money out of hers. And I would like to think Kate did that on purpose, would you?
I think she obviously
Just to
did.
have a go at Meghan, because people do need to have a go at Meghan, I think. You know, I'm not interested. You know, she's not a housewife. She's not a... What do you call that woman in America? That blonde American woman who's got all the...
Oh, I know you mean.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
She went to prison at one point.
Yeah.
Martha Stewart.
Martha Stewart. There we go. Pub quiz question sorted. Yeah.
She's obsessed with, or has been obsessed with housekeeping, you know, gardening, cooking. Meghan hasn't. She's just going to...
Well, she's gone a bit trad wife, hasn't she? Which is slightly odd, considering... What do you make of this Meghan
there was a behind-the-scenes shot, which she didn't show here, which was Meghan saying, this is what it's like to be a normal mum, and she sort of lined up freshly cut fruit on a plate in a rainbow with all the same coloured fruit together. Like, I've got 3 kids, that's not my experience of feeding the berry tribe. It's just, you know, get it on a plate, put it in front of you, eat your dinner. No, I mean, eat it now. We don't have music in the background or wearing matching beige outfits. I mean, it's just... It is not the real world.
And you don't live in a mansion that's got 15 bathrooms either, do you?
No,
I mean,
certainly not.
No, Susie, what do you think about this? I mean, because she's cleaning up financially. I mean, her and Harry are cleaning up financially from this. Someone's willing to pay him, aren't they?
I'm going to buzz it. I don't have much to comment. I didn't even know this documentary was... I mean, I love Netflix. I like to watch my Netflix, but I hadn't even seen this. I'm not really that interested. I'm just not. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm more interested in the real world. I'm more interested in inspiring people. I like to watch things about inspire. I enjoyed the David Beckham documentary.
Meghan Markle as an inspiration.
Well, she may well be, but I don't know enough about her to tell you whether she is or not. But, for example, I really enjoyed the David Beckham documentary. I find him a fascinating person and they've got an interesting story, etc. But maybe I'll have a look and I can comment when I've watched it.
We'll watch this space. Let's whiz ourselves on to some what many people regard as actual news, which is on the Telegraph. And it's an extraordinary new study has found that Britons who were responsible for the... Oh, no, sorry, this is a different story. But anyway, still good. An extraordinary new study has revealed that the Britons who were responsible for the building of Stonehenge were, quotes, probably black. Data gathered from across Eurasia has been reconstructed by scientists at the University of Ferrara in Italy and concluded that, quotes, almost all Europeans had dark skin until around 3,000 years ago. So, with Stonehenge being constructed around 5,000 years ago, they say we can assume that the builders had dark skin. Stonehenge itself was then very keen to be tweeting this out, saying, look, see, Stonehenge was built by black people. Everything. Firstly, do we kind of believe this? And also, do you think anyone really cares?
No, I don't think we do. You can see why Stonehenge are tweeting it out. They want to make a big thing of it. But I just...
Well, do you think Stonehenge has gone woke? Is that what it is?
Well, Stonehenge and almost every other institution, park, building, everyone has. They all have. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Well, people think it matters. I mean, they obviously think it matters.
I'm sure it's probably true, because we all came from 1 or 2 common ancestors who were in what is now sub-Saharan Africa. I'm sure it's probably true. Does it matter? Absolutely not. No. I put this in the same bucket as the people who've renamed the Brecon Beacons, because apparently referring to something as the Brecon Beacons encourages people to light fires, which damages your carbon footprint. No one cares who built Stonehenge. Really, or what colour... People care who built it. They don't care what colour their skin was. It's a really interesting historical monument in the UK, part of our history and ancient history, and something we should celebrate. I don't think anyone who's ever visited it has gone, I wonder whether this was built by a black person or a white person. I just don't care. It was built by ancient Britons. It's fascinating. And Stonehenge shouldn't be jumping on the bandwagon here.
Push, usually, to try to multiculturalise Britain from a time when it wasn't necessarily that multicultural. The BBC has done quite a lot where they did a documentary on the Romans, and then they were in Britain and they were making out that basically pretty much everyone was black, which was a complete load of rubbish. And I just don't see why there seems to be this rush to try to increase different races into Britain from years ago when we kind of know that's a load of rubbish, don't we? It's not our fault, you know. Can't help. Like, most people in Britain were white, like when we were pagans and all that. It's weird.
Maybe we should start paying reparations to Wales for taking the stones from Wales. Maybe that could be the next campaign for the people at Stonehenge. Who's historic England, I think, who controls Stonehenge.
Well, there we go. Well, when we come back, we are going to talk about some actual news. 3 out of 4 people will be overweight or obese by 2050. Well, I'm way ahead of you there. Anyway, coming up, I've got the rest of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. On the front cover of the Times, yes, that's right, 3 out of 4 people will be obese. Oh, and of course, there is still time for you to be part of my Friday night audience show. Stay tuned. Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Touch of frost and some fog patches around tomorrow morning. For many, it'll be another fine spring day, though, with some sunshine. But there will be some wet and windy weather coming into the far north. High pressure is holding on across the south. This weather front is fizzling out, but another one is approaching. And as those isobars squeeze together, the winds will strengthen once more across northern Scotland overnight. Bit of drizzly rain at times in western Scotland, but for most it's a dry night. The clear skies in the south allowing the temperatures to tumble, getting down to -1, -2, even in towns and cities. Rural spots quite a bit lower than that. We could start at -5 or -6. Meanwhile, we'll start at +5 or +6 with the cloud cover across the north. As well as the frost, there will be a few dense fog patches across parts of the south, particularly the southeast. So bear that in mind for Tuesday morning's commutes. But once they've cleared, much of England and Wales dry, fine and sunny. Generally a bit brighter than today across the Lake District and for Northern Ireland. The thickest clouds tomorrow are going to be across northern Scotland, where we'll see light rain initially, but it is going to turn a bit heavier as we go through the day. And another thing, those winds will continue to strengthen, really getting quite blustery at times across northern Scotland. Strong gusts throughout tomorrow. A bit breezy across Northern Ireland, particularly the north coast, but generally elsewhere the wind's fairly light, so feeling very pleasant come the afternoon. After we start below freezing, we'll be up into the teens in a few spots, and with those light winds feeling pretty pleasant. Now, the fog will thicken up again as we go through Tuesday night, if anything likely to be more dense across southern counties on Wednesday morning. But again, once that's gone, plenty of fine weather. A bit more cloud again across northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. Some patchy rain, chiefly in the northwest. Still quite breezy here, but not as gusty as Tuesday. And again, for many, temperatures double figures and in the sunshine, climbing into the teens. Bye for now.
Welcome back. I've got some more front pages for you now. The Guardian, US rift with Ukraine grows as Europe seeks ceasefire. Are we seeking a ceasefire? Anyway, the Daily Mail, Trump, I won't put up with Zelensky for much longer. Fresh salvo as President considers ending Ukraine aid. And the Times, Trump lambasts Europe for showing weakness. They've also got here, 1/3 of children will be overweight by 2050, and that's what we're doing now. So, the Telegraph are also carrying this front story. I will bring up one of them on the screen here now. But yes, 3/4 of adults in the UK will be obese or overweight by 2050. More than 1/3 of UK children aged 5 to 9 are on course to be overweight by 2050. So basically, we are going to be a nation of total fatty bum-bums, aren't we?
Well,
You making that, Carol?
Totally. And do you know, it really upsets me when I see overweight children, and I get angry on their behalf because kids don't get overweight on their own. They get overweight because they're being fed rubbish by their parents. Kids don't go to the supermarket and buy crisps. Their parents do, and I feel really bad because I do a lot of research into this, having been a fatty bum myself. I was 4 stones heavier than this, so I know what losing weight requires. I know how hard it is. Oh, I've just put more thing on my trousers, look. But I just feel, because kids are having hip replacements aged 11 now.
What? Sorry, hang on a minute. What?
Yes, because they're so fat.
Hip replacement.
Are you sure they're not just going on the waiting list at 11 to get at 17?
No, this is not funny because children are so heavy that the liquid, the gel in between their joints is going away.
But
so
that's
kids,
child abuse.
And they're getting heart problems in their early 20s. A lot of kids are going to die before their parents now because obesity has become normalised in this country, and it's shocking.
Well, what do we do? What do we do about it?
Yeah, this is the thing. So, like, you know, there are things that can be done about it, and some people may or may not. Look, there is a whole lot of stuff that parents need to do, but I also think we need to have a bit of a kind of whatever you want to call it, public health reform in regards to. No, let me finish. My days. Seriously, access to sport is really important. Access to, like, you know, exercise and things like even, and you're not going to probably like this, but I would have greater regulation of the food industry, like the junk food advertisements. Junk food advertisements, really, really important. What you call it, sugar tax or whatever? I would just have greater regulation. We do not allow people to go on the TV and say, let's all smoke a fag. We don't allow it. We should not allow what is going on with, you know, junk food. And they've already said that we should be regulating that. And actually the cost to the NHS and the cost to our taxpayers, loads of experts are saying that.
What I would say is that
not disputed.
There's a massive issue in this country with ultra-processed food.
Yes, there is.
People, I think it's, you know, there are all sorts of health issues, as Carol said, young people needing hip replacements. So I do think, actually, I wish we'd done this when we were in government. I do think it's time for us to think about a sort of there is already a traffic light system for food. I don't think it's very good in places like Brazil. In Canada, they've come up with a ultra-processed warning label, which actually has, Carol, you're not right. I'm going to disagree with you for once. Has made a big difference in Brazil and Mexico. They've particularly seen it drop off. And then finally, on the sugar tax, when the Conservative government, which I was a proud member of, introduced the sugar tax, all of the soft drinks companies did a reformulation of it.
Do you know the difference in calories it makes in a year for kids when they take the sugar added drinks? The calorie difference in a year is something like 100. It's nothing. They don't work. In Mexico, the sugar tax worked for the first year, and then after that, the figures went down. It's
experts across the board say you've got to regulate. You've got to regulate the advertisement. The same way. We're all talking over each other, so you can't hear.
It has to. People have to take responsibility for their own bodies, and parents have to take responsibility.
But you wouldn't have you wouldn't have people smoking on TV saying, "Oh, it's all right to smoke a fag." In the same way, you have to, because we regulate it. At the same time, no, it is right. We don't send the same message that we used to back in the 60s. We say, no, we're not going to have that on TV. In the same way, we need to do that with the food industry. It's really important.
Everyone was thin then.
And that's what experts say.
The smoking took the food cravings away. But anyway, now, this is an interesting story. Scientists have discovered that rodents try to resuscitate one another just like humans when they discover their peers are unconscious. The study, published in the journal Science, saw a mouse placed under anaesthesia and left temporarily unconscious. Well, a bystander mouse intervened and it tried to give it CPR. Seriously, look at that. I think that's absolutely amazing. I'm sorry if anyone is scared of mice, but I think that is fascinating.
Did it work?
In more than half of cases, the mice pulled on the unconscious mouse's tongue to unblock their airway and then breathed down it. I think that is remarkable.
It is amazing.
Seriously, because with the best one in the world, look at it there.
Look. Oh, my goodness. Did that little baby survive there, then?
Yeah.
Look, he's
to make sure it did. No, it did survive because actually, and this is arguably the flip side of this, is a little bit of animal cruelty because we anaesthetised that mouse to try to find out what happened.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Mouse or Mrs. Mouse. But in the end, we've learned something really fascinating, aren't we?
Yeah, it is amazing.
They're smarter than we give them credit for.
Well, I mean, a lot of us do give animals credit, but a lot of other people don't. They are sentient creatures. They understand.
But I think that's quite cute, isn't it? They think, oh, my little mousey friend there.
Yeah.
His tongue.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing to watch.
Yeah, well, there you go. We learn things that are new every single day, don't we?
It's a show we do.
Every day is a school day on the Patrick Christys show.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we've cured childhood obesity tonight. We've revealed that there's
Carol
a
sorted out peace in Ukraine.
Right, coming up. It is Headliners with the wonderful Josh Howie. Josh, what is going to be on your show this evening, my good man?
Well, I'm just reading now. The front page of the Telegraph has Channel 4 also used the Hamas official son in lots of its footage. It won loads of awards for that. We also have Fat Kids, and we have the hidden cost of wind farms. I also found these keys. I'm not sure who... Are they your keys?
They're my house keys, yep.
Okay,
yes,
they were in your bag.
Yeah. I'll give them back. Good, thank you very much, Josh. Cheers. Good. All right, well, look, Josh Howard with headliners will be on your screens next. Can I just say a massive thank you to my panel this evening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will be back tomorrow at 9 p.m. Also, I just really hope to see as many of you as possible here on a Friday night. We had a great time last Friday. It's an audience show, so come on, get your tickets. I hope to see you then. Take care.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Touch of frost and some fog patches around tomorrow morning. For many, it'll be another fine spring day, though, with some sunshine. But there will be some wet and windy weather coming into the far north. High pressure is holding on across the south. This weather front is fizzling out, but another one is approaching. And as those isobars squeeze together, the winds will strengthen once more across northern Scotland overnight. Bit of drizzly rain at times in western Scotland, but for most it's a dry night. The clear skies in the south allowing the temperatures to tumble, getting down to -1, -2, even in towns and cities. Rural spots quite a bit lower than that. We could start at -5 or -6. Meanwhile, we'll start at +5 or +6 with the cloud cover across the north. As well as the frost, there will be a few dense fog patches across parts of the south, particularly the southeast. So bear that in mind for Tuesday morning's commute. But once they've cleared, much of England and Wales dry, fine and sunny. Generally a bit brighter than today across the Lake District and for Northern Ireland. The thickest clouds tomorrow are going to be across northern Scotland, where we'll see light rain initially, but it is going to turn a bit heavier as we go through the day. And another thing, those winds will continue to strengthen, really getting quite blustery at times across northern Scotland. Strong gusts throughout tomorrow. A bit breezy across Northern Ireland, particularly the north coast, but generally elsewhere the wind's fairly light, so feeling very pleasant come the afternoon. After we start below freezing, we'll be up into the teens in a few spots, and with those light winds feeling pretty pleasant. Now, the fog will thicken up again as we go through Tuesday night. If anything, likely to be more dense across southern counties on Wednesday morning. But again, once that's gone, plenty of fine weather. A bit more cloud again across northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. Some patchy rain, chiefly in the northwest. Still quite breezy here, but not as gusty as Tuesday. And again, for many, temperatures double figures and in the sunshine climbing into the teens. Bye for now.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could be one of 2 big winners in our latest giveaway, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on the 7th of March. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Tubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
We often ponder the state of the nation. So this story then really caught my eye. A head teacher who some people have dubbed, I quote, the head teacher from hell. He's caught the press attention because he has a school in Wales. He's now looking at introducing Saturday detentions. He says that we have to stop mollycoddling kids and start to bring back good old-fashioned discipline.
We are fed up with kind of being soft on discipline. We are fed up of hiding behind words like well-being and safe spaces. There has to be a consequence to an action. And that's what we're trying to instill at Caldicot.
And tell me about the parents of some of these kids, because I would argue that much of the breakdown in society does come now. You see these kids on public transport, they don't have earphones in, they just listen to their music, they've got no respect for their elders. I know I sound like an old fuddy-duddy, but it all seems to have kind of broken down. And then I find myself, Alan, thinking, well, what are the parents doing in all of this? Are the parents supportive of your approach or not?
So we've got 1,300 parents. 2 or 3 took their children out of the school because they didn't agree with it. About 20 sort of kicked back, but now are on board. I think that's a great statistic. It shows that the overwhelming vast majority of people want this kind of discipline. And I don't blame young people today for the state of the culture or the nation. They are the fruit of it. I believe that if my generation puts in place strict discipline, firm boundaries, no means no, then we will get the young people that we want and that, we deserve.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.